Nancy did the hard work. She should get the cushion, right?
That's right.
I can't hear you guys. Yes. So wasn't that a great talk? Big round of applause, you guys. Wonderful. And I just have 4 short questions for you, just so to prepare you. First of all, you know, you've done something that's amazing. Just to have change in our practice, we have 9 physicians. To enact any change seems like you need an act of God. But you've done it with an enormous organization. You're a disruptor in an organization that is several layers deep. Maybe just a couple of tips for the rest of us out here who are innovators on how you were able to do that.
You know, when I joined Henry Ford, we used to have a culture that was defined as 1,000 points of veto.
Okay, which one? Wow.
Love it? I mean, it really felt that way, too. We used to write a lot of white papers all the time and a lot of plans, but the execution was missing. So, frankly, one of the things I did from the start was get very focused on operations, performance, making sure things really worked, because I wasn't going to gain the support and trust of anyone in terms of, you know, driving innovation if we didn't think we could do, you know, the basics really well. So we started with, you know, that process, and it really changed the organization. And a lot of the things that people conventionally thought, I challenged and said, I don't believe that. And all of a sudden, you know, people, whoa. And I had confidence in everyone. You know, a lot of it is about believing that your people can do anything.
And empowering them, right?
Right, absolutely.
Second question is, you know, patient care traditionally, I'm a practicing physician, patient care traditionally has been fragmented, you know, almost adversarial, meaning that the patient and the caregiver are not always working together in the community. How were you able to do that in a health system? And being able to do that effectively, that the entire nation looks at you and say, this is a model we really want to follow?
Well, I think you have to, first of all, you have to listen to your patients. You know, most of our patients manage their health 99% of the time. They know a lot, and often we do not listen very well. So one of the big things that we focus on a lot at Henry Ford is communication. And we help our physicians, our nurses, many people that struggle sometimes with that dynamic of how to speak, how to connect with the diversity of our patients. And we work at it. It has to be intentional, because I don't think many of us are not trained in communication to the level that we need in many of our jobs. And we don't deal with conflict well. You know, we avoid it. And I think we've got to really, you know, go straight into it, make sure whether it's a colleague that you disagree with, or it's a patient, or a family member that is challenging the situation, it's how to create better skills around that.
And empowering people, again, giving them the tools to
Right.
succeed instead of just saying, go out there and you know what to
Absolutely.
do. People just don't. My third question is that Detroit. I was in the south of France, and one of the first questions is, you come from Detroit. You guys are really doing well. Good job. And so I said I didn't do it personally. Yeah, it's great.
I know, my
but I want to
goodness.
ask you, because you're in the heart of Detroit, and I feel just you and your organization have done great things. But what, in your words, are maybe the top 2 things, innovations and disruptions in the city of Detroit that have led to the so-called rebirth and then future success, in your opinion?
Well, you know, I give Wayne State, and particularly Dr. Irv Reed, who was the president several years ago, a lot of credit for what's happened in Midtown, because he made the decision to put residential housing at Wayne State. And all of a sudden, we had 3,000 young people living in the city. And that was a game changer.
Huge.
And then we started buying property and thinking about our vision for improving the neighborhood around Henry Ford Hospital. We invested almost $500 million in our main campus, which many people thought at the time was a little crazy. But we knew that we needed to be a destination. We needed to have an outstanding facility. And we have collaborated with the Detroit Medical Center, Wayne State, on a program called Live Midtown, which basically brought our employees, some of whom lived in the suburban areas, to live downtown.
That's great.
And it changed everything. I mean, we had 1,000 new people living among our employees in Midtown, and now downtown is doing the same thing.
Well, and here's the thing, you know, thank you for doing it when it wasn't cool to do it. Now everybody
made it
wants
cool.
to do it. Yeah, you made it cool. That's right. That's the disruption, exactly. And what do you think in the future? What, in your opinion, will sustain this, make this growth sustainable and lead to future success in the city?
I think there are two things. One is continued job growth in the city, population growth, and neighborhood development. I think the more really attractive neighborhoods that continue to evolve, and we have some that are on the way, neighborhoods in Detroit are very important. You know, you can't have a great, vibrant midtown, downtown, and terrible neighborhood situation. You have to have both. So I think that's going to be critical, and I'm so pleased. I sit on the Kresge Foundation board, and we are now absolutely focused on how we can support, through our foundation assets, neighborhoods in Detroit. It's really exciting.
And I think as an adjunct, I think that all of you probably agree is that better schools, so that families would like to live there and go to school there. And, you know, a small thing, grocery stores. You know, nobody wants to drive an hour to get groceries. So I think once you bring those things back to the community, I think families would want to live there. But, you know, a lot of my patients who never venture there, you know, from the suburbs are going there in droves, so it's excellent. My last question to you is this, you know, you are an amazing soul. And what I mean by that is people know you for your work as, you know, leading this amazing healthcare system, but many of you don't know how much work you do in the community. So tell me, as a dynamic leader, a national leader in healthcare, you still find time, real time, to partner with the community, to make real change. Tell me, number one, why you do it. Number two, how can people like this, who are leaders and innovators, find time to do it?
Well, first of all, I think, you know, healthcare is a community asset. Hospitals were developed in the community for the community. And, you know, I'm quite worried about the sort of corporatization of American healthcare, to the point that we will absolutely get very distant from our roots and the importance of healthcare being connected to the community in very meaningful ways. And so we have to really, I think, set an example for even a large organization how we do that. So I think it's core to the mission of healthcare, and I think it's important, certainly for me as a leader. I've had mentors over the years that clearly helped me understand that connection and really helped create, I think, the passion that I have for the community. Secondly, you know, we are all part of the community. And as leaders, when I look around and see leaders that are doing things that are only for themselves, very inwardly focused as opposed to outwardly, I don't think they get the rewards of really participating in the community in a meaningful way. And, you know, you make time in life. We all only have 24 hours in a day. Nobody gets more. I haven't at least found the secret for that. I wish I could.
We're looking for it.
But we all get an amount of time, and we choose how we spend our time. One of the things I do that's kind of crazy is I audit my calendar every year to see how I spent my time. It's very instructive. I would encourage you all to do it, because you will find out what you care about, and you'll find out, you know, what's important in your life. And, you know, if you say it's important, you know, to be with your family, and you find out you're not with your family very much, maybe that's a aha moment. The same is true with things you do, you know, from a community standpoint. And the other thing I've audited for years is the amount of time I'm out of town, because, you know, in a job like mine, you could be out of town all the time. I made a rule that I was only, with my vacation, I take all of my vacation, I was only going to be out of the office or out of the health system anywhere 25% of the time.
Wow.
So, you know, when you start looking at your time and you figure out what you're doing, then you decide, how do I want to change it? Am I doing what I want to do and what's important? And it really is a big help.
That's great advice. And I think that, to me, the next revolution in disruption and in innovation will not be about the next gadget or the next technological advance. It's about what you just talked about, community, and how we incorporate ourselves in the community, not just in the local community, but globally. So thank you so much for spending the time and taking time on your busy schedule.
It's been great to be with you. Thank you.